All right, yeah. Hi, everyone. Hope y'all are enjoying Meridian so far. The Soroban content has been booming, right? Have you all been like sitting here or going to Barrio Blockchain? I've been running back and forth here so far. But we're going to talk about the gears that power the Soroban ecosystem, the tools, the resources. How are they shaping the developer journey? As clearly all of you here are in the dev Discord, right? So it's a really important part to make that developer journey seamless and intuitive. Right? We're here to unpack those tools, get a sense of the challenges in building them and understanding the broader landscape of the Soroban that Soroban has to offer. But more than that, our hope is that by the end of this discussion, you're able to walk away with that sense of enthusiasm that we just had. And whether you're just starting out or deep diving into this Soroban ecosystem, I want you to walk away with the insights that you feel like you are equipped to go and continue to build on Soroban or to get started on Soroban. I'm Anuhya, by the way. I am a developer advocate at the Stellar Development Foundation, and I am thrilled to kick it off with Francesco. Introduce yourselves. I'm going to let them all introduce themselves. So, go on.
Thank you, Anuhya. Can you guys hear me? Yeah, working? Yeah. Awesome. Francesco here, the head of product at Anchain AI. We're a security and compliance company based out of San Francisco, and we help the ecosystem be safer, preventing hacks, scams, and help recover funds when those happen. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Morgan?
My name is Morgan. I'm the founder of Okashi, formerly known as UseSoroban.app, which is a Soroban playground. And my mission is to help onboard millions of developers to blockchain, starting with Soroban, by creating intuitive tools for them to play around with.
Sweet. Dom?
I'm Dom. We're building the Duolingo for blockchain. We get the world's best developers building on the world's leading chains, and recently started educating our community on Soroban.
Willem?
I'm Willem. I'm the co-founder of AHA Labs with my other half, Chad. And we like to say we make aha moments, so we focus on developer tooling and making it fun.
Yeah. I guess we're going to start by deep diving a little bit more into what exactly they're building. So I'm going to start with Okashi. So Morgan, how are you all providing that Soroban introduction to budding developers, right? They're starting just now, that playground. How is it playing a role?
The key metric for me is time to effect. So if someone's joining this ecosystem, how long does it take for them to see something happen as a result of their action? And if you have to go through command line, setting up Rust, setting up access to a blockchain, then it can take so long that people can drop off. With Okashi, I am simulating the entire Soroban host environment in the browser, and your contracts are running in the browser. So how long does it take to run any contract on Okashi? Seconds. So you log in, you compile something, and then you interact with it immediately. And that kind of switches what users are able to do and stick around for longer, reduces churn, and many other things. Yeah.
Cool. In terms of Okashi influencing the space, right? You obviously feel like Okashi is going to influence the future of Soroban builders, right? That said, what is a tool that you wish you had? And this is open for anyone here. What is a tool you wish you had when you started that 0 to currently Okashi process?
Right. So whenever I try and learn some new tech, I try to sprint towards understanding and being able to iterate rapidly. So like a quick feedback loop. With Soroban, that took me close to a month when I first started last year in December. A month is a long time, and if you're not like super interested in the tech, then you can abandon it easily. So reducing the time that it takes, that's usually good tooling around command line, around access to the browser. And I'm a fan of the web. I think the web's gonna drive blockchain adoption, and WebAssembly is a perfect match here for Soroban being used on the web and being learned on the web.
Yeah. Dom, I know that you have been building the Duolingo for blockchain, right? Clearly, that also plays a role into the playground aspect of things. So what inspired you? What was that initial aha moment that you had?
Yeah, great question. So I think, a couple of years ago when we actually founded EasyA, one of the main things that we really wanted to solve was developers kind of knowing about blockchain, but not really knowing where to start. So they have cool ideas, maybe they have an interest in a particular ecosystem, but then by the time they actually sit down and actually start to maybe write their first lines of code, they've already churned because they've had to, set up a whole new IDE. They've had to go to multiple different links all across the internet and find out, how to do X, Y, and Z. And so we thought it would be great if we could just build a mobile app that allowed anyone to actually get, all the way from like an introduction to something like Soroban, all the way actually down to deploying their first smart contract right through their mobile app. And so we thought, creating this whole streamlined experience where someone can just open up the app and deploy the first smart contract and then actually go and develop would be really, really impactful for a developer journey, reduce churn at the beginning of a developer's journey into a new ecosystem, and actually get them to that aha moment really, really nicely and a streamlined way.
Yeah. And also, for those of you who have probably never downloaded EasyA, I highly recommend you do and check out the EasyA Soroban modules. If I haven't tweeted about it enough, I'm plugging it in now. Willem, specifically in what sense do you feel like Aha Labs simplified that Soroban experience? Where does that come into play?
Well, our main focus right now is improving the command line interface.
Yeah.
And so the first big thing that we did was to kind of hide the XDR, which, raise of hands, how many people have used XDR or had to interact with it? All right, well, so our main goal is to try to just hide it so that now your contract, it reads the XDR from the contract, can generate a CLI on demand, and then you can even read the Rust docs that are the contract author put in there. And then the other thing that we've worked on is to generate a TypeScript library. I think Chad talked about it yesterday on this stage. And that is, again, trying to hide the XDR from the TypeScript developer who just ends up with TypeScript types at the end.
Yeah. Well, so one thing I've noticed, the three of you here who have talked about it are all talking about simplifying that developer journey, right? Let's talk a little bit about the security aspect here. So, Francesco, can you talk a little bit more about what role is Anchain playing in terms of Soroban and the standardized smart contract templates?
Absolutely. So we launched multiple products on Stellar. Of course, the latest that we announced is specific to smart contracts. Soroban being, the big release introducing smart contracts to Stellar. So specifically, smart contracts are the brain, right, on any applications built on chain. And one of the things that we noticed, to piggyback on every panelist here say, is like simplifying that experience to start building. So if we look at like last year, there's still like $2.8 billion that were stolen due to smart contract hacks. So can we help prevent some of those from happening? So what we launched is an open source smart contract catalog where we created templates for different smart contracts, from an NFT one to a soulbound token one. I think we have a crowdfunding one that we launched as well, where developers can go take these contracts, which two different teams have created and audited, and either deploy them as is or go and build on top of those building blocks, right? So security here is these smart contracts are audited already, right? It's the first step. It's not sufficient to be holistic around security, but it's a first step, right? So we hope to help developers start that journey with a little bit more peace of mind in terms of security.
Yeah. I think all of you are kickstarting that developer journey in one way or another, right? So what is one challenge, or if many challenges, that you might have come across in the Soroban ecosystem that you feel need more attention?
Well, other than the onboarding experience, I feel like if it takes a developer to use 2 tools or 3 or more, then you're sort of failing in the onboarding journey. The developer should use 1 tool, gain an understanding of what the platform does, get a sense and feel for it, and sort of get enticed to take the next step and move on to the plethora of tools that are available. So getting that one happy path going, and that's I believe, and this is not just Soroban. This is I think no one's doing it well yet, and this is a greenfield if there ever was one. So nail that down first. There's 20 million developers that have never touched a blockchain. Get them on board.
Right.
Yeah, I think adding to that, I think even going one step further, I think those are great points, but I think, awareness in the first instance is really where it all begins, is people have to know about Soroban in order to actually learn about it in the first place. And so when we look through our app and we see different challenges on different blockchains, whether it be Solana, whether it be Soroban, or whether it be Polkadot, or any other, top chain, we kind of, see basically people coming towards Solana because it's got such a high awareness before, going to other chains. And so I think the awareness point is really important. So, hosting more hackathons, more events like this, different meetups in different cities around the world is really important to actually getting people focused on Soroban and thinking about it when they come to deploy their dApps or smart contracts.
Can I sort of make a counterpoint a little bit to that?
Yeah.
Awareness is important, but you got to nail the basics. I was once part of a startup that was burning over $1 million a day on user acquisition, and they certainly had awareness. But user costs were like $650 per user, and they were churn 50% of their users every month. So awareness has to start when the product market fit is there, and people are staying for long. So there's you got to time it right, I think is the key.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to add on top of what Morgan just said, right? It's still very early, and if you want to build a wall, if you want to build a house, you need those bricks, you need those building blocks, and I think we're all building for that, right?
Right. I mean, that's currently where Soroban is at, right?
Right.
Building those building blocks. Willem, I'm curious in terms of Rust playing a role. You're an expert in Rust, I would say. Do you feel like having come from that near ecosystem and having that wide breadth, what are your thoughts on that onboarding experience? Do you feel like that plays a role?
Yeah, so the one aspect we haven't mentioned yet is that because of the way Soroban's designed, it pushes users to use the no STD version of Rust. So Rust is already a very difficult language to learn, and then that's the hardest part of Rust, which is taking away all of these higher level features that a lot of people are used to. But I mean, they do provide the through the Soroban SDK all of these types. But from someone who's never touched Rust before, it can be a little jarring. So I do think that besides all the tooling, the helping guide them through the language learning, like having a way to learn Rust through Soroban as opposed to having to do two things at once.
Do you feel like how was that when you were building the EZA modules, right, for especially onboarding developers onto Soroban? What was that like, having to build that Rust component in? How did you simplify it? Because you work with a lot of Web 2 to Web 3 developers, right, Dom?
Yeah, I mean, I think the cool thing whenever we build out new modules is really actually interacting with our community. So every time we have basically a first draft, we have focus groups at different university blockchain clubs that we partner with. And to date, we partner with over 250, from Harvard blockchain all the way down to Oxford, Cambridge blockchain. So really in the US and the UK, because all of our content, of course, is right now only in English. But we really work with them to iterate and see what they know, assess sort of what the basis level of maybe a Web 2 dev is, and then actually see how we can introduce different aspects of Web 3 to them and how we can build on the existing knowledge that they have and then iterate on that with those live focus groups. So I think that's been a really important component for us, and also that helps shape the narrative too. We can figure out what they're interested in, what kind of use cases they find really appealing, and then we can actually start to build a narrative around that, because we found that a sort of narrative centered around a particular use case is really important when actually showing people the functionality of something like Soroban or one of the other chains that we work with.
Yeah.
Can I follow up to William's point about Rust?
Yeah.
My introduction to Rust was Soroban. I never had touched a programming language before, and it's low level enough where it can seem foreign. And what Soroban did, and I feel is great for folks that have not touched Rust before, is they have the host environment, right? If you need a vector, if you need a map, if you need certain actions with accounts, there's a environment function for that. And it's almost like you're not even learning. So Rust is like branching logic, providing branching logic and types. And it's awesome because it's so easy to pick up. And Rust is a deep, deep language. So not requiring folks to have a deep understanding of Rust, leveraging the Soroban host environment just lowers the bar substantially, and I think is an amazing design choice that they've made.
Yeah, to piggyback on that though, the hard part is incorporating other Rust crates, because the Rust
That's
crates
true.
have to be no STD compatible, which, the best crates are, but, I think that if they come at it from a different angle, if they're used to like being able to just use whatever they want off the shelf, it can be a little jarring.
How many Rust developers are out there right now, roughly?
I don't know,
Anybody
millions?
have
Do
the
you
answer?
have a rough number there, Dom, in terms of onboarding? I mean,
Probably an order of magnitude
Like-
less than JavaScript developers.
Oh, for sure.
Most likely.
I mean,
Yeah. So I think just, tailoring, like, what's the average, we have to empathize with the average developer, right? With the most popular stacks, because there's no reason why they should not be blockchain developers. We should see everyone, like, being able to be a blockchain developer. And you go to where they are.
in terms of security aspect, right, of things, how is that like? I mean, it's so like. In general, the space is always changing. It's moving very quickly. Keeping up with that security demands, how is that?
Yeah, it's a good question, right? Of course, introducing smart contracts introduces like a lot more new like attack vectors, right? Which, as a developer, you need to start considering. So that's one point, as we've seen, right? Most of the hacks from last year have been smart contract based. Not all of it. I think a good 70% though has been like smart contract based. So how do you prevent that, right? What are some of the challenges that you face? I think SDF started like a good initiative. I see Tomer in the back yesterday. He announced that the audit bank, right?
That's awesome.
That's a great initiative, right? Help those developers, right? Get the financial resources they need to actually go and do a security audit before they launch.
Right.
Things do not stop there, though, right? Out of those hacks from last year, 90% of the contracts were actually audited, right? So how do you how do you have like a holistic approach around security that is not just, I'm going to tick a box, I'm going to do my audit, and that's it, right? So you're going to, there's cybersecurity frameworks around like good approaches and best practices in security. But definitely, like the audits is a good first step, right, that you need to do. But once, there's still going to be some vulnerabilities or some attack vectors that you need to consider. So how do you set up your incident response plans, right? Are you even monitoring, right, certain events from your smart contracts that may be dangerous, right? Like, are your admin privileges changing, right? Are you monitoring for that? Like, there's been a hack last year, I'm not going to mention the name, but, $600 million were stolen, actually a year and a half ago. And they realized that they got hacked 5 days after the hack happened, right? Best practice in cybersecurity is that you should be able to detect it within 5 minutes. So 5 days, as you can imagine, is like way too long, right? You're not going to be able to recover it. So these are a lot of different steps that, as the ecosystem matures and the industry in general matures. So this is not just Soroban, Soroban is,
right?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's the old blockchain ecosystem, right? It's still, their mature, like security posture, it's still pretty early, right? So we got to work together on getting to a level that is, standard, it's good, and where institutions also feel confident to jump in, right? Yeah.
In terms of like the fact that, yes, security is a big like thing that's moving, what other tools do we need, right, in the Soroban ecosystem? What are ways that we can be interoperable amongst each other, or even within the smart contracts aspect of things?
Yeah, I'd say one of the most difficult parts about Rust right now is compared to, say, Solidity. Solidity has a class-based system where you can just point at a already published audited contract and edit it for the functions that you want to change. And so, yeah, I think adding some sort of feature, which Chad and I are working on this project called Loam, which aims to let you, have extensible traits where you can import functionality that's already written and change it in the places you need to. But yeah, I think other than that, from a tooling perspective, I think we're missing right now if you want to launch your own standalone network, you have to have Docker installed. So talking more about, limiting or increasing the amount of things that a developer needs to get set up. So I think, one thing we're working towards with the CLI is to be able to, with one command, spin up the network. And, so ultimately you will just need one tool.
Right.
But, yeah.
Yeah.
I think I can plug AHA Labs doing the TypeScript bindings. This is insanely important for client-side devs being able to interact with a contract. You don't want to think about how do you compose a contract, how do you compose an operation, how do you, do the whole banana. You just want to do the contract name and the contract function.
Yeah.
That's it. And that's super important because, you're alienating folks if you're causing them to step out of their organic development patterns. And so, the bindings, contract bindings, client side, super important.
Yeah, I want to just add to that quickly, just as a reminder to all of the contract developers in the room, please add comments to all of your functions and types. They will show up in all of the generated CLI and TypeScript, and it's very helpful.
Or use OpenAI to auto-generate that. Also a good option.
That works too.
If it's meaningful.
In terms of the overall ecosystem as is right now, right? What is, let's say we go back, right? If you could do one tool, the only tool that you had, what is that one get started tool that you wish you had when kickstarting your journey?
Some way to parse XDR.
Okay, going back to XDR.
I know that-
Willem's working on that.
There's an XDR viewer in the Stellar Labs. It's fine, but just some way to, I spent too long to understand it.
Let's take a quick pause here and explain what is the XDR, just so the audience
It's an
knows.
acronym.
XDR stands for External Data Representation, and what does it mean?
It's just a way to describe data in a binary format, so that then different components can be able to say, on Rust you can generate from that XDR the low-level representation of that binary and then parse in and out of it, and same with the JavaScript. So it's something that developers shouldn't have to know, but it does power the things, and that's what gives us all the power of the types in the contracts.
Yeah.
As developers, you always have to ask, is the developer tool that I'm about to use parsing XDR to human readable form or not? Because if it's not, then you're going to have a world of pain trying to get to that point. Stellar uses it. I don't think any other blockchain uses XDR, but it's an interesting format. It's once you're captured by it, you learn to love it.
I guess we're almost at time here in terms of what is a key takeaway, right? First of all, let's talk about what's next, right? What are you working on to better the Soroban ecosystem? Where's that next stage for you guys?
Yeah, so the open source smart contract catalog is the first step that we took, right? In sort of creating these standard templates for smart contracts, which are audited, right? Now, what is next, right? How do we make sure that we have the proper monitoring and response plans in place for when this goes to production, right, to mainnet? So we're working on something where we're going to be having a product to monitor sort of events submitted by smart contracts. Key takeaway is, your audit is usually not enough, right? It's just, don't treat it as a box to tick, and that's it, right? There's this NIST cybersecurity framework. It's comprised of 5 points, right? But the first 3 are identify, detect, and protect. Protect and detect. Identify is what your audit does, right? So identify vulnerability. Protect is, put your response plans in place. And detect is, have monitoring to detect potential attacks once you go to production. So, for developers, key takeaway is treat your cybersecurity as almost as your insurance, right? Do all the right steps, follow standards, and it's not a matter of if you're gonna get hacked. It's a matter of when that is gonna happen, right? Because if there's money and activity involved, hackers unfortunately are gonna be attracted to that.
Morgan?
I'm excited to be included into the Stellar documentation once we're out of the beta, and users can read something about Soroban, click a button, and they're running it. Nothing involved, just instantaneous feedback. And looping everybody into the awesome feedback loop of you do something, you see the result, you do something else, you learn, you create an intuition, and I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. I think feedback loops are really,
Really?
really important.
The faster
right?
they are, the
Yeah.
quicker you learn.
Yeah, exactly. Dom?
Yeah, for us, we're excited to continue working with Soroban to integrate more challenges centered around the cool use cases of Soroban. And we're also excited to open up the Soroban modules to any other ecosystem projects in the Stellar ecosystem, or anyone else who wants to be included in these challenges to take advantage of some of the amazing devs that we have who will be looking through these different challenges and actually building hackathons like the Sorobanathon, for example, coming up soon.
It's ongoing at the moment.
Ongoing right now, finishing up soon. So yeah, if you are excited about it, come find us after the talk, and we'll be happy to see how we can integrate you.
Yeah, especially if you're just now tinkering with the ecosystem and not in the Stellar Dev Discord yet, definitely the person to talk to. And join the Stellar Dev Discord. But, Willem?
Yeah, so the other thing that I haven't talked about, what I do is this project called Smart Deploy. So I actually have a brain date at 4 p.m. if anybody wants to learn more, but it's basically just a factory contract for all contracts. So you can publish with names so that, like your templates can be published and then have a little check mark that it's been audited. And then make it easier to then, with one click, deploy, any contract you want with a name. And yeah, just make it easier for people to have upgradable and maintainable smart contracts moving forward.
Yeah. Where do you guys see, if at all, working amongst each other?
I'm definitely going to be working with AHA Labs to
Yeah.
integrate the type bindings.
Yeah.
And I've discovered this during the conference, so it's a great thing I came.
Yeah, no, I think overall, that is a wrap. And thank you all for joining us. And big key takeaway here is we want to make sure that you guys feel equipped to continue to build on Soroban or to get started on Soroban. And we have all the right tooling for you to get started now. And once you get started, go do Sorobanathon, RP Siege, and all the amazing different programs that the developer relations team has for you to continue your Soroban journey. Thank you all.
Thank you.